Happy Easter, everyone, and God bless.
Happy Easter, everybody. We started together on this Lenten Musical Calendar journey 40 days ago. And week by week, together we have been sharing the stories and the songs of Lent. And it has all been coming to this. The tomb is empty. Jesus has risen from the dead, and the world is forever changed. To share our gospel reflection today, we are so honored to be joined by the Bishop of the Anglican Diocese of Niagara. Would you please extend a very warm welcome to Bishop Susan Bell.
A reading from the Gospel according to St. Matthew. After the Sabbath, at dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven and, going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were as white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. The angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, he is risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples he is risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Now I have told you." So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid, yet filled with joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them. "Greetings," he said. And they came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." The Gospel of Christ. Well, Christ is risen. Happy Easter to you all. Well, what shall we say about the resurrection? I'm reminded forcefully of how reality-altering it all was as I read St. Matthew's account of how Mary Magdalene and the other Mary received the news with great fear and great joy. Well, no wonder. When the dead don't stay dead, fear is a very reasonable reaction. And how their first instinct on meeting him was to worship him as God, because nothing and no one short of God could be raised from the dead. The fact is, it's not possible to understand the resurrection. It never has been. It can only be explained in human terms up to a point, and after that, well, it's a matter of faith, a matter of belief in God's power and loving intent, a matter of knowing and trusting that God keeps God's promises. I can't tell you how the resurrection happened in the tomb on that first Easter day. It is indeed a holy mystery. God's ways can't be justified or explained at times. So great are God's powers that we can't understand them. But I know Jesus rose from the dead. That's a matter of faith, and it's legitimate to say that. Truly it is. I may not be able to tell you how it happened, but I can tell you why it matters. I can tell you that Mary Magdalene and the other Mary and all the rest of the disciples, so very close to Jesus, experienced a shift in their reality so profound that it changed the trajectory of their entire lives. Ever after, they were Eastered people, as are we because of their brave witness. There really is a before and after nature to their life. You see, it was personal for them. Before, they knew that Jesus had walked among them, healed them, taught them, loved them, and saw them. And they knew with a slow dawning of comprehension that he was exactly who he said he was, God's Son. And so when he died and said it was for them, to make them right with God, that he would give his life for theirs, they knew that to be the truth too. And after, when he'd risen from true death with the good news that his work was accomplished, that they were right with God, they were forgiven, redeemed, and set free, and that Jesus had done all of that, not just for them, but for all humankind, well, they spent their lives compelled to tell anyone and everyone about that. As one biblical scholar said, the disciples knew what to do next because they knew the story they were in. They knew that the Messiah had come and that Jesus was the answer to God's promise. So they went around preaching the good news of the proof of God's love for the rest of their lives. And what I know for sure is that people like you and me, people with the knowledge of the events of Easter, and because of that, of the certain hope of life with God in our hearts, spend our lives revealing God's love and action among us here and now in acts of love and mercy as Eastered people. So the blessings, the peace, the strength, and the hope of the risen Christ be with you now and always.
The women brought spices to the tomb that morning. Their plan was to anoint the body of Jesus. They had no idea how the world was about to change on that day that began with an impossible sunrise. Broken pieces of wood from the cross, drops of blood soak into the sand, disciples scattered, mourning loss, they can't understand.
The moon drips down the sky like a tear. Hours pass as hope becomes fear. The darkest shadow buries the light until the stone is rolled away by his might, and the world wakes to an impossible sunrise. Yes, we finally believe when we see love in his eyes. Yes, the world awakes to an impossible sunrise. Mary walks the miles to the tomb. Her broken heart yearns to touch his face. A morning light is piercing the gloom that surrounds this place. She wipes away her tears and sees unbearable joy, drops her to her knees. That tiny piece of hope she's kept hidden. Our Savior says,